We got to talk about the
All right.
Giants.
Yeah.
They had us in the first half. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I'm going to just give the Giants that had us in the first half, I'm not going to lie, award. Giants down 60-0, first 6 quarters of the season.
Not great.
It's not what you wanted. It's not what I envisioned.
There was a long, several hour period of time because just peek behind the curtain. Craig, Heifetz, and I and Kai are texting all day long, usually on Sundays. And there was a good amount of time there where I was like, okay, we need to do a welfare check. We need to text Jackie, see what's going on. Is Danny around? Is Heifetz alive? Because we didn't hear from you for several hours. It was like he was doing his weird little rituals somewhere by himself or something. I don't really know. But I was starting
spilling
to get
pagan blood.
It. Yeah.
I know. I was just doing pagan rituals and just.
Did you go for a walk? What'd you do?
It worked.
No, what I did, I was looking up whether anyone owned the domain website for didthegiontscoreyet.com because I was a little worried that it was going to be 0-2, 60-0. But so the Giants they were down 28-7 midway through the third quarter. So the Giants kind of basically did the 28-3 comeback. It was 28-7, but they did it in regulation. Giants scored 24 unanswered points
against
in regulation.
the worst team in the league, not a Super Bowl team.
Shut up, Craig.
A guy with Josh Dobbs at quarterback. So yeah.
Josh Dobbs looked like Tom Brady in the first half.
He did.
So franchise record comeback. The Giants were down 21 points at halftime. Entering the day, the Giants down 21-0 in the second half. We're 0-50 entering the day. The last time the Giants came back from 21-0 in the second half was or down 21 was 1949, and ironically, it was also against the Cardinals.
Wow.
I think Milt Plum was in that game.
Yeah,
what city were the Cardinals in that
Chicago.
Game? Okay.
Which
perfect.
Which first of all, we didn't talk about this enough. The Cardinals were started by an Al Capone adjacent lawyer. And that was Michael Bidwell's grandfather who owns the team. Huh. Yeah. It's he bought it from a guy on a boat, which reeks of the Peaky Blinders scene in the basement where he's like, give me your company. It doesn't matter. Just look it up. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
You'll never hear from me again. But anyway, Daniel Jones, I was looking up stats in the first half and I accidentally shrieked because I came across that Daniel Jones had essentially 0 fantasy points in the first half. Ended up number 1 scoring fantasy quarterback on the day.
Yeah.
Number 1 overall. Josh Dobbs, top 5 quarterback on the week. More than Jalen Hurts, more than Josh Allen, more than Patrick Mahomes. This was a weird game. Well, I was extremely biased. DK, what was your were you? I'm actually touched that you were just worried about me.
Yeah, well, it's mostly just how are we going to do the podcast if he's dead? That would be awkward. But the game, that was just a wild game. Yeah, I was at first I was wait, was I actually maybe being serious about my Cardinals are going to win 9 games take? They're actually looking a lot better than I think anybody expected. They almost won week 1, and then of course they were kicking the Giants' ass in the first half in this one. But I don't know. I don't really have a big takeaway other than good job for the Giants coming alive in the second half. I don't know what Brian Daboll did to get that spark, but it certainly worked.
So I think I guess the way I'd say it is I can't remember a game. I'm sure there are, but I can't remember a game where I felt like a team had all of its strengths and weaknesses on display in the same performance. I actually think Daniel Jones played incredibly well, and everyone who made fun of him in the first half, including me, I was a little terrified. Daniel Jones is a good quarterback. Everyone makes fun of the contract. Daniel Jones is there. I think the coaching staff, Brian Daboll's great. I think the surrounding team is kind of horrific. And the pieces have been overstated. The Giants started 2 rookie cornerbacks in week 1. It's been I don't think the Giants have done that in 15 years. I mean, and you looked up, my brother texted me and he was right. They just kept getting lost on pick plays. The defense was lost. The whole thing's just sloppy. The offensive line's a mess. Andrew Thomas, the left tackle, was out. The right tackle, Evan Neal, is bless his heart. Someone called him Eric Flowers with a work ethic, which was devastating. Our left guard was benched and then he got to play again. And everything's a mess. But Jalen Hyatt looked great. Isaiah Hodgins is weirdly good, but it's still, it's a practice. He's a practice squad guy. Daniel, I don't know. So it's not good that this was the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think my main takeaway here was just I don't know if the Giants are any good. Like it was a great comeback, and there was moments where I was like, wow, they have some good like talent here. Like Saquon Barkley looked awesome. Daniel Jones was making some huge plays. And like Jalen Hyatt looks like he's an ascending player, but at the same time, kind of get done with that game. And I'm like, I don't really know if like I learned anything about the Giants here. Like, I don't know if they're a good team at all yet. So good thing they got the win, I guess, is the bottom line.
Oh, and then Saquon got hurt. Saquon got rolled up on towards the end of the game, and it looked really nasty. And he kind of had to get helped off the field. But now reports are coming out that it might be an ordinary ankle sprain rather than a high ankle sprain, which is a huge difference. I mean, they're playing Thursday night. I doubt he's going to play regardless that game, but 2 weeks off. Hopefully he's back. But Saquon is so good, but I really feel like the Giants are not giving him enough opportunities in space. Like most of the time he's like running little 3-yard curls, and the second he catches the ball, he's getting hit by a linebacker coming up his ass. Like they need to do a better job of getting Saquon the ball in space, because it's essentially him and Waller, and that's all they got. So I don't know what that entails, but come on, Dayball. It looked like Joe Judge was coaching the game for the first half.
It's weird. I hear what you're saying, Craig, because on one hand, I think what Dayball did immediately with Saquon was something that annoyed me. It was something that always annoyed me watching Saquon, was that the highlights were always incredible, but the amount of times where Saquon kind of danced, Dayball immediately made Saquon like a more downhill runner, and it's nice to see Saquon just take like these 4, 5, 6 yard runs in a way that like he's happy to take singles and doubles in a way that he hasn't been. But then I watched games like the Dolphins and the Patriots, and obviously it's a different system, but the way the Dolphins, the 49ers had the like zone running, and McCaffrey gets a pitch and he like goes wide. And then like when he cuts up field, it's like a red carpet. You know what I mean? Where he Mostert in this Dolphins game tonight. Like when he cuts up, I'm like, he got 8 yards downfield and no one touched him. And I'm like, damn, like what, it's like there's a reason McCaffrey looks so good in San Francisco. It's like, what would Saquon be like?
Saquon's yards are hard earned.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when your offensive line, you have one good lineman and he's not playing in the game. So brutal. Yeah. Again, we'll see. It's hard to overstate the difference between Saquon having that regular ankle sprain, which is fine, and a high ankle sprain, which kept Michael Thomas out for 3 years. So, right. Like pretty big difference. Saquon had a high ankle sprain in 2019 and it basically wasn't the same for.
It ruined his season. Yeah.
10 weeks or 2 years, arguably. Speaking of injuries, Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals aggravated his calf injury. The Ravens beat the Bengals 27-24. Craig, how was this Bengals game?
God, what a weird start. Joe Burrow is like, it's like his yearly tradition to start 0-2.
Yeah.
It was a really messy game. Burrow and 2. That's right.
3 or 4 years, they're 0-2.
He was worse than his stat line suggested. He ended up having over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, but through most of the game, he was terrible once again. And so through 2 games now, Burrow has 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. He's averaging 9 fantasy points a game. That's ahead of only Zach Wilson and Bryce Young in the whole league. Joe Burrow.
Craig, I was going to say, want some context for how bad Joe Burrow has been through 2 weeks? Zach Wilson has more yards than him. Zach Wilson has thrown for 310 yards, and Joe Burrow has 304 yards right now.
And unfortunately, and Joe, at least, somehow Zach Wilson is keeping Garrett Wilson afloat, who had a 75-yard touchdown today. Poor Jamar Chase is one of the biggest disappointments of fantasy right now. He's obviously going to bounce back and it'll be fine, but this is brutal. The dude has 10 catches for 70 yards and no touchdowns through 2 weeks. He's averaging 6 fantasy points a game. And man, the offense just doesn't look right. Burrow's not moving well. No one's getting open. There's no like vertical threat. There's not like deep passes. T. Higgins finally got going, but the offense is just a mess right now. And it looks like Burrow got hurt at the end of the game. He said he didn't get hurt until close to the very end. So you can't even blame his shitty performance on his calf.
So I don't know what to make of that. So he said he aggravated it. They had like the Theragun. He would just look like the sideline at the end.
Yeah, he was grimacing, taking the Theragun to the calf on the bench.
Theragun. You guys know what a Theragun is?
I own a Theragun.
No free ads here.
You guys are like talking about something I do not know about, so that's cool. Yeah. At least T. Higgins got his. That's all I'm saying.
Well, two notes here though. It's important to note he said he got hurt later, but like remember last week they took 98% of the snaps in the shotgun. That's a weird. I mean,
I'm sure he wasn't feeling 100%, but he definitely aggravated it late in the game where he had a noticeable limp, which he didn't prior.
It's just weird because like when he originally got the calf injury, the first thing we talked about was how Stefania Bell had a great article at ESPN that basically the hardest part about calf injuries is coming back because you don't know. There's no good test to figure it out. And basically
unpredictable.
An athlete can come back and like it feels great. They feel cool. But like the parts that aren't able to be simulated, which is running for your life from like a defensive end, that's where it's going to give. Like it's everything outside of that, but it's the most explosive movements to the part where it's going to give and have a setback. So, and otherwise it won't be noticeable. And as you said, Craig, like that's, Durant had a calf injury that went to an Achilles, like all these things. So now is he going to play?
Knock on wood. Jeez.
Jesus, Heifetz.
What are you doing?
No,
have you learned nothing these last 2 weeks?
Whatever.
God damn. Somebody get Burrow a priest right now.
Like sprinkle the water on him.
So the other... I'll undo it. Joe Burrow had 10 more yards in the last 2 weeks than the Navy quarterback.
God. Wow. Burrow's the new Fields. You know what sucks about this is like if you have Burrow in your fantasy team, you're kind of stuck. It's like what happened with Herbert last year when he hurt his ribs. It's like, well, he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So you're like, you're not going to not start Joe Burrow, but also in a limited capacity, he's probably not going to even come close to like what he's capable of. So you're just kind of in that messy middle ground where it's like, are you really going to like start CJ Stroud over Joe Burrow? Maybe, but you'll look like a fool if Burrow has 3 touchdowns and 300 yards next week, which he might.